I can. All right, so this morning we are doing the Senate Bill 3, the Time's Up Act, which is a bill that came out of the Judiciary Committee earlier this year and has cleared the Senate, and we're hoping to have final action on today. The bill has sort of three main components to it. The first is addressing issues of workplace sexual harassment and workplace discrimination, and there's sort of two main ways in which that we go about doing that in the bill. The first is by providing new training requirements for employees, and the training requirement is under current law, employers with 50 or more employees are required to provide at least 2 hours of sexual harassment training for their supervisors. Under the bill, the sexual harassment training requirement would be 2 hours for all employees for any employer that has 3 or more employees. The training requirement can be satisfied via a video that is going to be made available by CHRO free of charge. So there's not going to be a charge for the video or a cost on employers that way. The only real requirement on the employer is to make sure that they provide the video to the employees and also provide time during work hours for the employee to watch the video. It's a one-time requirement when a new employee is hired, and for supervisory employees, you have to redo it every 10 years. There's also a cleanup to what's called the corrective action statute, basically the action that you can take to move an employee who accuses a coworker of sexual harassment, and under this provision, an employee could not be moved unless they give written consent that they're okay with changing basically job hours or moving offices or job functions until the matter is investigated. There's also some additional authority ingrained in the bill for the CHRO, who is charged with investigating workplace discrimination, workplace harassment complaints. Most of this is fairly technical, sort of in terms of the process by which CHRO goes through. It allows CHRO to seek punitive damages. It extends the time period by which somebody can file the complaint. It addresses some of the CHRO backlog by allowing cases to go directly to Superior Court where the parties agree, and also allows for the provision of attorney's fees. Sort of the second main piece of the bill is on the criminal statute of limitation for sexual assault crimes. Currently, Connecticut does not have a statute of limitation for sexual assault crimes where there is DNA evidence. But when there's not DNA evidence on a case, our current statute of limitations is 5 years for felony offenses and 1 year for non-felony, which is one of the lower numbers in the country. And as folks know, sort of for the last several years has been an effort to increase that. We believe the right compromise was struck this year, where for felony offenses the statute of limitations will be 20 years, and for non-felony misdemeanors it'll be 10 years. And there will be no statute of limitation for crimes against minors. The final piece of the bill, sort of the third section of the bill, deals with the civil statute of limitations for bringing the time limitation for bringing an action for damages in Superior Court for civil claims. Currently for minors, a minor has from their 30 years after their 18th birthday, so basically to the age of 48. This bill would increase the definition of minor from somebody from 18 to 21 and basically give someone who's 18, 19, or 20 the same right to seek 30 years. So it would be 21 plus 30, or basically to somebody's 51st birthday for a minor. The point being there really for civil statute of limitation claims, treating a minor at 21 the same as we've sort of done with several other statutes this year, as folks are aware. So those are kind of the key components of it.
What's a non-felony? Where would the line be drawn between felony and non-felony?
So a non-felony would be like unwanted sexual contact. but it wouldn't be, it wouldn't be forced sexual contact or, certainly rape or something like that.
So that's a
It would be
class A
less-
misdemeanor?
Class A misdemeanor, yeah.
Fourth degree sexual assault, right?
Yeah.
Is it 30 years past, they're now 21, it was past 18, so
It was-
have you extended that?
No, there is a task force that's envisioned to look at the civil statute of limitations more broadly in the bill as well, and that'll work in the off session. But the only change is on the raising the age from 18 to 21, and then 30 years past 21.
So it's still 30 years, because some states have no limitations at all.
For criminal, I don't know
Yeah.
that there's that many states that have no statute of limitations for civil. Because remember, in a criminal context, you've got, the burden of proof is higher, you've got to go to the state's attorney, there's sort of other safeguards involved. On a civil statute of limitations, where it's just any plaintiff's lawyer can bring a case whenever they feel like it, and think it's worth bringing a case, they can. So there's not quite the same level of safeguard in there.
So this is civil and it buys them 3 additional years.
It's more than buying 3 additional years. What it does is it incorporates a totally different class of person, because it's not just an 18-year-old, it's a 19-year-old, 20-year-old who now has that same extension of 30 years, whereas right now, the statute of limitations for civil is, I believe, depending on what it is, if it's a tort claim, it's probably 3 years. So if you're 19, you basically have 3 years from the date of the incident, as opposed to under this bill, it'd be 30 years from the date of the incident for a 19-year-old.
Has the public defender dropped their opposition with this new legislation?
I think my understanding is I think they think it's better than it was with no statute of limitations, but they were really pushing for 10-year statute of limitations as opposed to the 20 that we've agreed to under the bill.
Is
Can
this
you go ahead?
Is this a talker, or is there an agreement on, no?
Can you talk about retroactivity? In other words, I think there's some confusion on that. I just wanted to be clear on what is retroactive and what is not, or is nothing retroactive, and how that all factors in.
So on criminal, it's hard to go retroactive because there's a double jeopardy issue and there's some constitutional issues there. So on the criminal side, if the statute of limitations has not run, you continue to get the extension. If or if you were encompassed under that, then you get the extension. If your statute of limitations has already run, so say for example, you were the victim of forced sexual contact, a Class D felony, 6 years ago, right? The statute of limitations was 5 years ago. You're still beyond the statute of limitations. There's nothing you can do about that, and we can't change that because of constitutional concerns. But if the statute of limitations, if the forced sexual contact happened 4 years ago from today, you now have an additional 16 years in which to come forward.
Have the Roman Catholic Archdiocese talked to you about this? Have they contacted leadership or you?
Early on, they had some concerns with the initial version of the bill that was drafted in committee. I don't think they're as opposed to the bill in its current form.
I never had a request from you, to my knowledge.
I've never met with them either.
And your plan is to pass this as amended by the Senate, right? It's not okay.
I noticed when I just had a chance to read through the journal that you guys only did Senate Bill 1. We were given to believe that there would be another vote on a Senate bill to effectuate the compromise that has been negotiated. What's the plan with that?
It's not. I talked to Senator Flexer, and there isn't another bill coming that'll have. I guess there's a poster.
He's talking about.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Paid family.
Same thing.
Oh yeah, that's the same thing. So that's a little more complicated because of the process that we have to do. LCO has told us they have to, what's it called, Matt? Engross
the bill.
Engross the bill and then come back with the changes that are needed. So they're going to move that process quicker than normal, and we could have it today or Monday, and then we'll see where it fits in with the calendar.
Is it so? In the meantime, let me try this one more time. In the meanwhile,
Yes.
Senate Bill 1 will go on its journey to the governor's desk, where we expect it to be signed. And then somewhere between now and midnight on Wednesday,
Yeah.
we will, and the Senate will have passed a
Yes.
second sort of fix. Okay.
To preserve his ability to veto if it doesn't get there, it's our understanding the governor will hold the FMLA bill until the companion bill gets there
Well,
and
yeah.
do it at the same time.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
The governor was pretty strong initially about his feelings about this bill, and that he didn't want it to pass as is. He didn't want this quasi-public agency, and that's still there. I mean, he's made a couple of compromises, taking maybe 15 members to 13, streamlining, but do you think that, I mean, he's looking for your votes, we're told, and he's trying to compromise and bring?
I don't think so. I think the negotiations, and I know my staff and the Labor Committee Chairwoman Porter was involved in nearly 3 months of negotiations, and it bounced back and forth. There was different issues, and there was days where we were comfortable with ideas, and then next day people would sleep on it and say, no, I'm actually not comfortable. So I believe the bill stands on its own, that they got to a point they felt comfortable with the makeup, and they were willing to move forward.
Is it drastically different though?
No, but sometimes a period in this building changes a bill, or a shall to a may. It doesn't require much sometimes for people to feel more comfortable.
And he was never opposed to the quasi. He was opposed to the makeup of the quasi, the board. And, you know, he wanted the majority of the appointments, and which what he got. I mean, look, there's some governors who would have said, I want all 15. He gave.
And Colleen Flanagan said that was always his option, even before the compromise, that he could pick and choose. So that wasn't the new development, it was a smaller, 2 members smaller.
No, but it also changed his appointment authority. He got more appointments.
Could I just clarify? I mean, I know at this time of the year that the timing on everything's dicey, but if you have, in theory, 2 more FMLA votes coming, one in the House, one in the Senate, you know, the budget, we're talking about the earliest Monday, couldn't that really, if the Republicans don't want to cooperate, just consume a massive amount of your time?
Yeah, and that's why we've drafted the resolution to immediately gavel back in Wednesday night at midnight to continue. It's, I mean, nobody will be happy, but we feel very strongly that, given the time available, if everybody acts in an appropriate, professional way, we can get done.
And then on Monday, when the budget is done and approved, Republicans will come over to us, Democrats will go over to Themis and Vinny, and everybody's got something that they would like to see passed.
What are you gonna, what's
I
on the
think
budget?
we're gonna bring Steve Dargan back for that. that big huddle picture he always likes to get. So we'll have to give him a call.
Photo bomb.
So when are you planning on doing the finance, adopting the revenue?
Monday morning.
Monday morning?
Early.
Yeah.
All right.
Has the budget been printed yet, or it's in the
No,
process?
it's still, it didn't go as smoothly as we all had hoped. There's sections that need to be vetted against each other. It's taking a lot longer. Maureen was right. She said 48 hours, and I don't think we've reached that 48 hours. So more people should listen to Maureen when it comes to how long it's going to take to get the budget done.
So when are you having a caucus? I mean, when are you going to produce the town runs for your members?
So today what we're going to be doing is we'll probably have a brief overview again with a little bit more detail now that the governor's office has briefed the Republican side of the aisle. We wanted to ensure that the Republican leaders were on the same playing field as our caucus. We'll make ourselves available. We'll go over it again, a little bit more detail in caucus today, and then just allow the members to come in and meet with the chairs and the leaders, talk about concerns, other various questions. We're hopeful that the document is available electronically to all members tomorrow at the latest. So we'll see how it goes.
And
there are requirements of e-certing a bill, which will be an e-cert, so we have to live up to those.
And Appropriations Committee, the budget they reported out is a probably good indication of what your town run will be. Members know that. So.
Senator Fonfara said that he still is looking at options to give the legislature somewhat more influence over the bond allocation process. Even with the Attorney General's ruling, there were bills raised in the mid-2000s that would allow the legislative leaders to jointly prepare the agenda with OPM. There are other things, you could add more legislative seats. Is that if you can't reach agreement with the governor on that, is that a struggle that's worth taking on this session, or is that something that you don't have time
So I guess my clock is clicking, right? So, but I will tell you this, I feel very strongly that place is not with the legislature. Would I like to see more cooperation? Sure, but we don't have to formalize that. We're all reasonable people that get along fairly well most of the time. And we should be able to agree to it. Having the legislative leaders be under that pressure to where they either have an equal say or an entire say of what goes on the bonding commission is, in my opinion, again, a recipe for disaster.
And you're determined to implement an opioid tax as part of the budget?
I think it will be contained within the budget.
And there's,
On the,
some template
Despite, threats of a lawsuit,
Yeah.
potential.
Yeah. Yes, I mean, I'm not a lawyer. The two gentlemen to my left are. They probably could answer
I've
it.
met one in a while, but
Answer it a little bit more accurately, but it's almost like standard operating procedure where people who feel that their rights have been violated by a law that we've passed, they go to court and the court figures it out. They look at legislative intent, they look at the constitutionality, they look how it fits with the letter of the law in previous cases, and then they say legislature was right, or the plaintiff.
How is that not a tax on the consumer?
We are,
Pass through.
I guess I take this particular situation a little personal. The producers of opioids have made a lot of money in a very inappropriate way. So it's our intention to ensure that they'll be paying it, not the consumers.
and if that has a chilling impact on the amount that is prescribed or consumed or purchased, then that's probably a good public policy outcome as well.
On the LLCs, there's been some complaints that it's hitting the small, or would hit the small businesses too much. Was the purpose of that to try to frankly target rich people, and it possibly might not be being? Have you been getting feedback on that?
We believe there is a level of progressivity to it that was important to our caucus. The folks that obviously make more money through that system are gonna be paying more. But we also did it in a way that we felt was very balanced, considering that the pass-through entities have received a very, very large tax break under the Trump administration. And what we're reclaiming or asking them to contribute or requiring them to contribute to the state of Connecticut is a very small portion.
Yeah, and look, and this is going to be rare for me probably to be strong on something like this, but my frustration with the CBIA is this. It's always what they're against, but I would like some congratulations of $4 billion for the state. The reamortization of the teacher pension fund has a $4 billion liability hanging out there, which we've heard time and time again. So I don't mind the headlines saying we're opposed to this, but for the largest industry in the state, business association, to never come out and say there are good aspects too is not fair. So I'm going to challenge them today. Say what you like in the budget when you say what you don't like, because that's fair and balanced.
And there is a very large commitment to workforce development within this budget, something that they've asked for repeatedly. We will be bringing all sectors of government, private sector, colleges together in a way that will reshape how we look at workforce development here in the state of Connecticut.
Aside from the budget and the attendant bills that go with it, what are the must-haves or what for you?
Depends who you ask.
Well, yes, I'm asking you. I know what Representative Scanlon is asking for.
Yeah, so what's left
Shawnee
that
will
we
get
think
his.
we need to have? Speaking for the House specifically, and you know how it works, the Senate will call down with their must-haves, and Tuesday, Wednesday, the Republicans on both chambers have must-haves that we will do everything we can do as long as we can find that common ground, and we're willing to all work together, that we all have. Some of the things that immediately come to my mind is Representative Scanlon. He put hundreds of hours of work into a bill that would transform some aspects of healthcare in Connecticut. I think what we're left with is more around the prescription drugs and other aspects.
Reinsurance.
The reinsurance, that's very important. The Danbury delegation has an invasive species bill that they really need to get passed. They have real issues with the lakes.
Do you know what the species is that invaded?
No.
I don't know. What was the species that invaded Danbury?
Some flower. I think
Flower.
call a botanist or something.
Milfoil.
What is it?
Milfoil.
See, buddy, that's why I'm always glad Buddy's here.
That may go today, Mr. Speaker.
I think that's in the list.
Yeah, it is in the lake.
Scanlon's bill is next week.
We're aiming to do Sean's bill on Monday. I know he's not, let me say this, Sean is not thrilled with me. So it's hard to get the runway for it today because of time's up and the length of that debate. But we'll get to it on Monday, and that should give the Senate plenty of time to act.
Before the budget?
Before or after?
Yeah.
Well, yes, that was.
Let's put it this way: the first two bills Monday are the budget and Scanlon. We just don't know the
Well,
order.
I guess. So the question is, if the budget's not ready,
That damn thing better be ready.
It'll be ready.
So
Come hell or high water, that thing's gonna be ready.
Mark, how it's gonna work to decide who goes first is Maureen is gonna arm wrestle Vinny. My money's on Maureen. The House is gonna go first on Monday.
every time I ask about that bill, I feel like I'm Scanlon's agent. You know?
What's your understanding about
He doesn't like my term. He needs runway. He's sick of that.
Yeah.
term.
So again, our caucus does know about it, so I will share it. The ECS schedule is consistent with the bipartisan budget that we passed previously.
Which is?
The governor asked for the speed up. We've done it over the plan that we had last year.
And again,
it's a 10-year instead of 5.
I said this
right? Is that
yesterday,
right?
Correct, yeah.
but it's
Yeah.
really critical to remember. So call any first selectman in the whole state of Connecticut. Call some small town. Their ECS may be going down a little bit because they're losing population, but ask them what they budgeted for ECS and teacher pension. And my guess is when you compare that to what they're getting, they're going to be up. I guarantee you.
Right, so the governor made it clear that, he wanted to get this done on time, which is great for cities and towns, obviously, but the question is, so you're saying in some towns that money will go down based on population?
As it should. If you're not educating as many students and you're closed schools or whatever, you shouldn't continue to get the same money.
And that was a
from the state.
Republican-Democratic formula. Right.
What about, this is a random question, what about the mansion tax? Is there a mansion tax in here?
Yes.
Well, it's if you leave the state of Connecticut, mansion tax.
Sell your
Explain
mansion,
how
buy
that
another mansion, you're okay.
Yeah.
Sell your mansion and move to Florida, you're gonna pay.
You're gonna put a chip in everybody's head to track.
How do you?
No, where you file your tax returns. I mean, this is actually
Okay,
this is actually
Yeah.
very good public policy. So the conveyance tax extra levy, if you sell your home at a very high value and you move to Florida, you will pay the extra conveyance tax. If you can prove residency and domicile in Connecticut on your tax returns, you will not pay that extra fee. I think it's very good public
What's
policy.
the extra fee? What is the conveyance?
I think it's an extra 1.5 or 1 basis point. So it would be like 2.5, I think. So over 2. Right now it's 1 over 800,000, I believe, is the extra surcharge. It would be 2.5 over.
So how much revenue is that?
It's about 10 million, 8 million, 5 million. It went down. Okay.
It's the value went up.
At least I didn't say it was 100.
Community, Matt? Community?
I just texted you back.
Yeah.
So
So the other aspect that we haven't talked about enough, and we're gonna be spending a lot of time talking about it, in year 2, we are going to get to the free community college here in the state of Connecticut,
Oh,
which
wow.
is an amazing thing for the struggling students of the state of Connecticut to pay back that student loan. Again, I had my football coach gear when I walked in here this morning. I tell my students all the time, as student athletes, if you are not playing football in college, which a very small portion does, go to community college for 2 years. Get your prereqs out of the way. Get started down that path and then transfer over to a university in the state of Connecticut who've done a lot of work to ensure those credits correspond, and they can save boatloads of money. And under our plan, that'll take effect in 2 years. They'll only have 2 years for the standard degree of college debt. If they go on to an advanced degree, which we'd like them to do, they'll have the typical 4 years of college
Joe,
debt.
can you
So-
just clarify that though? I just want to make sure. We're talking free community college or debt-free community college?
Debt-free community college.
That's a
Sorry,
huge
kid.
distinction.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But also when Greg Haddad showed me the fiscal note, I said, Greg, I think it's wrong. How could that be possible that it's a positive revenue gain? This is leveraging federal dollars,
Yeah.
which is, so Greg didn't really lie about it at all, nor did OFA. It's actually an amazing concept that we're going to leverage federal dollars to do this. It's a really great program. One of the highlights of the budget that hasn't been talked about yet.
It's for the 2 year, right?
It'll start second year.
And then B5 of your paper today, or A5 rather, had this whole article about how students on how much debt kids, not our generation anymore, but younger than us are carrying. I mean, they're coming out of college with
I'm
just
still paying it. You're not paying it.
what
You're
I'm
not
saying
still
is-
paying
what I'm saying is the debt burden on this generation coming out compared to even ours has grown 15% of what you're making every year. It's crazy.
We're gonna end on that, but if you look at Majority Leader Ritter's hands every day when he comes there, it does have the ink. He literally sits in the morning and reads the actual paper.
Well,
Good.
while
Sure,
everything's
we want
fresh,
that.
Even when you're mean to me, Chris, I still read it.
since Steve is still here, on
I know
the
she's
bills
got
that
enough
flew,
to walk away.
since the bills that, there were two bills that flew through the Senate, police accountability and prosecutorial transparency, which sometimes things that pass through up there very quickly have longer or more difficult paths here. So is that something that may come up today, or is that just?
I don't know that's today, but certainly it would be, those would be my two priority bills to.
It passed 36-0 in the Senate.
Consent.
Consent.
Thank you for pointing out that we're the more deliberative body.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
I got a hard time. I think if it was 35-1, based on who that one was, it could be a talker. The fact that it was 36-0, I think should make it okay.
I think let me say on the prosecutorial transparency piece,
I hate to say
880,
time's up.
the governor's office has done an amazing job talking to all four caucuses to try to get language on that bill. I think that one in particular, I suspect that there will be broad support for because
Second.
he's worked the committee very closely.
Thank you.